Today we're talking about midpoint, and we want to find the midpoint of segments. And here we have a couple examples that we want to go through. To start with, we want to write down the midpoint formula. So the midpoint formula, we want to find the x midpoint, and the things that don't change, I'm going to write those down. And we want to find the y midpoint, and the things that change, that don't change, I'm going to write those down. So we're going to have two endpoints, x sub 1 and x sub 2, and y sub 1 and y sub 2. And all we're doing is we're finding the average of those points. So here we have find the coordinates of the midpoint of v is 3, -6, and w is 7, 2. So I'm going to substitute those values in. The things that don't change. X midpoint is equal to the things that don't change. I'm going to add these together and divide by 2. So what are the x sub 1? X sub 1 is 3. X sub 2 is 7. Then we can add those together. We're still going to divide by 2. 3 plus 7 is 10. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So our midpoint for our x value is 5. We're going to do the same thing for our y coordinate. We have y midpoint is equal to the things that don't change. We're going to add two numbers together and divide by 2. In this case, y sub 1 is -6, and y sub 2 is 2. So -6 plus 2 is -4, and -4 divided by 2 is -2. So our midpoint formula for this example, we have x midpoint comma y midpoint. It's an ordered pair, and that is going to be equal to 5, -2. Now we can use these same formulas to do practice number 2. The midpoint, find the midpoint of FH. The midpoint of FH is M, 4, -1. What are the coordinates of H if F is at 3, -4? So this one's a little bit different. This one doesn't give us the two ends, where this one gave us the two ends, we had to find the middle. This one gives us one end in one midpoint, and we want to find the other end. So I'm going to graph this just to kind of get a better idea of what's happening here. So M is at 4, -1. 1, 2, 3, 4, -1. We'll say that's right there. And F is at 3, -4. 3, -4. So a little bit down here. So my guess is that the other endpoint is going to be over there. So our line is going to be going this way. So use our same formula. We have x midpoint is equal to the things that don't change. We're going to add these together and divide by 2. And we're going to have x sub 1 and x sub 2. We're given the midpoint. So x middle is 4. And we're given one of the values of x sub 1. So x sub 1 is 3. And we need to find that other value there. So we're going to leave that as a variable x, and we need to solve to get x by itself. So the first thing we have to do is, because we're dividing, and this is 3 plus x is in a group, the first thing we have to do is multiply both sides by 2. So I'm going to multiply both sides of the equation by 2. And 2 times 4 is 8. And the reason that we multiplied by 2 over here is so we could get those 2's to cancel. And then we're going to be left with 3 plus x. And now we want to subtract 3 from both sides to get rid of that 3. And then we're left with 5 is equal to x. So that's going to be our other endpoint. So that is x midpoint, and that helped us find our other endpoint there. Now we got to do the same thing, but we have to substitute in the midpoint and use our y value. So y midpoint is equal to the things that don't change, y sub 1 plus y sub 2. And we're going to substitute in the values that we know. The y midpoint is -1. And we know one of the y values is -4. And we're still going to add and divide by 2. And we have to calculate x there. And we're going to do the same steps. Because -4 plus x is joined in a group by division, the first step we have to do is we have to multiply both sides by 2. So I'm going to multiply by 2. I'm going to multiply by 2 because I want the 2's to cancel, and multiply by 2 on this side. And we're left with -2 is equal to -4 plus x. So we're going to add 4 to both sides because we want to get rid of that -4 there. -2 plus 4 is 2. So 2 is equal to x. So our coordinate for x middle, y middle is going to be equal to 5, 2. And that makes sense with our prediction. So we said it was going to be 5, 2. That puts it right there. That's about where we thought it was going to be based off our drawing.